Alright, today we're gonna have a look at a G-Shock watch that's currently already aged more than a decade. Believe it or not, this watch was released way back in 2011 and it is called the GDF-100 series. In this case, gold black color variants. Casio released like 6 different versions of this guy, and this is, I believe, one of the flashiest. Although the better looking one will be the black and orange or the Burton collaboration model. So speaking of which, this watch is kinda odd, right? It is functional since it has twin sensor, being thermometer plus barometer sensor built in the 9 o'clock position, and that explains the uniqueness of its design, which also in turn used as a altimeter data as well. So you can see the altimeter over here, barometer function by pressing the first mode like that. Anyway, you probably noticed that it is kind of hard to see. Well, that's because it came in negative display. So if you're thinking of getting one for function, of course, get a positive display version. Just so you know, this watch, again, over decades old. But if you compare the visibility aspects of this watch to the brand new Modeman, I think with this same viewing angle here, it is still far better. I just have to say that for this Modeman because it's just that bad. Anyway, back to this spin. At least it has some uniqueness in it, like the 9 o'clock position again. You can see the 4 dots over there. Originally, I believe, I actually thought those are buttons where you could press on, operate something, but it turns out those are just for decoration. And I even went all the way out my way to look for replacement parts, third-party parts at least, and here is how it looked like. Look at that. It has a green accents for the pin. Well, I'm gonna use the word pin, but if you look it on the bottom, there we go, nothing much going on there. And I even could take a screwdriver, push it down. Those are just holes, and this pin looking thing just looks like that. Anyway, it pretty much serves the same function or purpose as one you could find on a other sensory equipped G-Shock, where you could have some gaps over here, for air to access in there. I guess that's the main purpose, but the way that they design it really makes it unique, and I believe one of the reasons why people gravitate toward this watch in the first place, just because of the design. Most people end up not using the watch as it was intended to, but just from the way it looks alone already justifying enough, at least in my case, especially when you guys already know I love G-Shock watch. I like the uniqueness, I love all of this craziness, different ideas that they always implement on the G-Shock. Either the end result turns out to be bad or what, still I appreciate all the efforts, like in this case, just unique. One thing that bothers me though, every time they make something unique, something just out of the ordinary, yeah, Casio just like that stop making them. Maybe it is unpopular, maybe they didn't get the targeted sales number, but this watch is still, in my opinion, even up to this day after decades old, it is pretty much like a classic G-Shock watch, comparable to the vintage DW6700 series G-Shock watch, which kind of look like this. Also twin sensor, right? So that's a little bit of history and heritage regarding this model. So you don't have to buy this colorway. Let me say it again. This is ultimately, look at the gloss mirror finishing, beautiful face, gloss finishing band and bezel. This is definitely made for fashion wear. Even though at the same time you could kind of use the thermometer function, you don't really need barometer, as going throughout the day at the town or mall, whatever, but still, you have the options to use it. Well, in my case, one thing that kind of look functional, but it's not totally not functional at all, is this thing over here at the 2 o'clock position. Those look like pushers, right? Actually look like a pusher. It even plays at a position where normally there's some buttons over here, but those are not pushers whatsoever. Those are just, again, hold on, let me show you guys a better perspective here. Look at that. If you look at it on the side, it's just empty holes, right? Nothing going on in there, so there's that. But still, it adds the character to this G-Shock watch in particular, and that makes it unique. Still, I love it. And then you can see the buttons over there, really nicely done, like a bars design. It is hard to press because the bezel is massive, bulky, it protects the buttons entirely, so you really have to use your nail. But because it has those texture on there, your fingernail could get stuck in there, and just press the button, you know, swap between modes, making it a lot easier. So your finger just not gonna slip out in comparison to if you're using one of these buttons, right? Very slippery. Anyway, speaking of which, here are the list all the functions. Guys, I already talked about this one before. It's just a quick refreshment. At home time, you have date, day, timekeeping, massive display, seconds counter, and some graphics over here, since you know it didn't have any moving second hands. This part, because it is moving, it kind of have the same vibes to it. Then you have barometer mode. When you enter every other mode, the time, your home timekeeping will be displayed at the top there throughout all these modes. Barometer mode display, barometer reading, thermometer functions, and here are change in atmospheric pressure being displayed over here. It is going up or down, so you could check, you know, how the trend goes, so you could predict the weather. And then you have the world time function, that's pretty much dual time display over there. You have a stopwatch all the way to 24-hour range, and then we have timer also to 24-hour range as well. 5 alarm plus signal, and then back to home timekeeping. This watch, even though it have 1, 2, 3 buttons on the side, it does have one extra at the front to operate the double LED backlighting, which in 2011 when this watch was released is a big deal. Back then you all have those amber orange single backlighting, which is barely visible, but this watch way ahead of its time. Despite of that, I believe this watch is kinda odd in a way that it didn't belong in any specific category. Like say, if you have sensors on a G-Shock, normally Casio will include those, you know, as a surfer watch like the GAX100, right? And then we have this Mudman or a Riceman, or any other model that has twin sensor. Normally they will be added into the twin sensor G-Shock category. This watch just didn't belong anywhere, didn't have a name. Casio does associate it to the snowboarding sports with the Burton collaboration, you know, black and baby blue colorway, gorgeous watch by the way, very collectible. I guess that's also the reason why they stopped making this, because this watch didn't belong anywhere, and that makes it unique at the same time. And that's the reason why I think this watch is far more collectible than I thought it was. Far more collectible, and that's the reason why I think this watch deserves much more recognition among every G-Shock watch enthusiast, or even G-Shock watch users. You don't have to get this watch, you don't have to buy the watch. It's quite expensive actually in the aftermarket despite the age. I just want to make sure that you guys realize this watch exists. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next one.